Hello and namaste. Welcome to the distance learning of Best Montessori Elementary School. And in today's topic, we have investigating the time zones. Actually, this is the second video on the same topic, that is the investigating the time zones. So mainly we will be focusing on calculation part. Yes, but before doing the calculations, here are some points which we must note down in order to solve or in order to do the calculation part. First of all, prime meridian separates Earth into two hemispheres, that is Eastern and Western hemisphere. Prime meridian, which is the central imaginary line which is located at 0 degree, yes, it separates Earth into two hemispheres, that is Eastern hemisphere and Western hemisphere. The countries which are located in Eastern hemisphere are called the Eastern countries. Similarly, the countries which are located in the Western hemisphere are called Western countries. Point number 2. Eastern hemisphere has one day and date ahead compared to Western hemisphere. To explain, to understand this point, let us zoom in, okay? Let us take example of one country which is located in Eastern hemisphere and one more example of one country which is located in Western hemisphere. So let's say Nepal is located in Eastern hemisphere and Chile is located in Western hemisphere. So now, according to this point, Eastern hemisphere has one day and date ahead compared to Western hemisphere. From this diagram, we have to understand that Nepal is one day ahead in day and date compared to Chile. Why? Because Nepal is located in the Eastern hemisphere. Alright? More in East, more is the time. Once more. More in East, more is the time. Now this is very interesting. We are talking about the time here. To explain this, let me again zoom in. So let us take two countries. Let us take an example of two countries which are located in the Eastern hemisphere. That is Nepal and Indonesia. Nepal and Indonesia are located in the Eastern hemisphere. So more in East, more is the time. It means Indonesia, out of Nepal and Indonesia, we know that Indonesia is located more towards the east. Which means in Indonesia time is ahead compared to Nepal. Why? The reason is that Indonesia is located more in the eastern direction. Now let us talk about the calculation part. How do we calculate the time zones? First of all, we know that there are 24 time zones in the world, and those 24 time zones are represented by different numbers. Alright, here just for the sake of understanding, I have mentioned only 3 time zones, that is +6, +7 and -5, alright, just for understanding point of view. Okay, so to calculate the time zone and time differences, first of all we have to know some basic information, alright. So we have to add if one country is in Eastern hemisphere and the other is in Western hemisphere. If one country is in Western hemisphere and if the other country is in Eastern hemisphere, in that case we have to add. Similarly, we have to subtract if both the countries are in same hemisphere. Means if both the countries are in same hemisphere, let's say if both the countries are in Eastern hemisphere, in that case we have to subtract. Similarly, if both the countries are in Western hemisphere, we have to subtract. Now let us look at the calculation part. What will be the time of Nepal if the time is 3 p.m. in Chile? We already know that, because of this prime meridian, if it is AM in Eastern hemisphere, it will be PM in Western hemisphere and vice versa. Alright, so now let us look at the calculation part. We already know that according to the question, it is 3 p.m. in Chile. According to the question, it is 3 p.m. in Chile, and we have to find the time zone of time differences of Nepal with Chile. Yes, so we already know according to this point add if one country is in Eastern Hemisphere and the other is in Western Hemisphere. So China and Nepal, one country is located in Eastern Hemisphere, Nepal is located in Eastern Hemisphere, and Chile is located in Western Hemisphere. So in this case, we have to add. By adding, we have to look at the time zones first of all, okay, in order to add. So Nepal is in +6 time zone, yes. It is in +6 time zone. We are adding here. Why we are adding? Because this is the rule. Alright. Similarly, Chile. Chile is in Western Hemisphere. Chile is in Western Hemisphere, which is at -5 time zone. It is at -5 time zone. Remember here, the sign of plus and minus in this situation, it does not matter, alright? It does not matter. So the total will be 11. The total will be 11. I already told you that the sign in front of this numericals does not matter. We only have to focus on plus and minus here, alright? We only have to focus on these main points. Alright, so we got the difference, that is 11. We got the difference, that is 11. Alright, we got the time difference of 11 hours. Now, let us focus in this point again, okay? More in east, more is the time. We already know that Nepal is in eastern direction compared to Chile, yes? So, we can simply go ahead of the time. We can simply go 11 hours ahead. Alright, so if we go 11 hours ahead, when the time is 3 p.m. in Chile, yes, if we go 11 hours ahead, the time will be 2 a.m. This is it. So this is how we calculate the time zones and time differences. And mainly, in this question, we are focusing on the country which is located in Eastern Hemisphere and Western Hemisphere, alright? We are focusing on the countries that are located in Eastern Hemisphere and Western Hemisphere. But we also have another condition. In another condition, if both the countries will be in Eastern or Western Hemisphere, then in that case, we have to subtract. Well, this much for today. In the next session, we'll be discussing more about time zones. As for now, bye bye, stay safe, stay home. Namaste.